Hey guys, I'm Edna. I'm 24 and I was wondering, do you believe in miracles? I didn't used to until quick before I tell you about the miracle I experienced. Go ahead and like and subscribe for more hidden wisdom stories. So, like I was saying, I was always the kind of girl who scoffed when people talked about miracles and supernatural stuff. I come from a small town and moved to a big city with progressive thought. I had a great job doing cost flow analysis just out of school, but when the company went under, I searched for jobs for months without luck, and I had a heck of a time making rent. So I did something I always said I wouldn't. I moved back to my hometown and in with my folks. I could barely stand living with my mom when I was in high school. Now it felt like it had gotten worse. But not long after moving back, I ran into this old high school crush of mine. His name was Lance, and I hadn't thought about him in several years, but when I saw him at the grocery store, my heart nearly lost a beat. He was just as handsome as ever, and it was weird because he recognized me. I didn't even think he knew my name in high school. Lance was so popular, and I was so not. But here he was talking to me like we were old friends. He never left our hometown, and now he had himself an auto shop. And get this, he told me twice that he was single. I thought maybe he was interested in me. He kept saying that it was good to see me and how we'd have to kick it sometime. Kick it. Lance was so cool the way he talked, and he kind of made me giggle. I found myself daydreaming about him a bit. My mom was trying to give me advice about my future, but I wasn't really listening to her. I was thinking about Lance and plotting how I could run into him again. I decided I needed an oil change and went by Lance's shop. Lance and I had a great time chatting. He said a group of his buddies were having a cookout at the Moon Tower that night, and he asked me if I wanted to join. That night was awesome. His friends were great, and they cooked the best food and played the coolest music. At one point, Lance even asked me to dance. I think for the first time since I came home, I didn't miss the big city. But later, things got a little out of hand, and something unbelievable happened. After some good food and drinks, Lance and the guys started arguing about who could climb higher on the tower. Lance got 8 feet, and his friend climbed the highest at about 10 feet. Suddenly, I got a competitive streak in me, and I announced that I was going to climb all the way to the top. I think part of me just wanted to impress Lance, but for whatever reason, there I was climbing. 5 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet. Just a few more to go, and I hoisted myself up on the top of the tower. I was shouting my success to the skies, feeling as alive as ever. When suddenly, a crack of lightning danced across the sky, and I almost lost my balance. I gripped the beam and started to scoot back to the ladder, but the winds were picking up, and I could feel the raindrops falling harder and harder. Under the wind, I could hear Lance shout for me to be careful. I was trying not to slip and keep my hands gripped. 15 feet. 10 feet. Suddenly, the most beautiful thing happened. A bursting white glow surrounded me and seemed to lift me from the tower. I felt the shock later, and I fell flat on my back below. I remember seeing and hearing everything, but I couldn't move or talk. Lance was by my side, and his friends got me into the truck and rushed me to the hospital. My muscles were aching, but at the same time, I felt a comforting warmth. I remember sitting in the back with Lance. He had me sitting upright, and he was telling me I was going to be okay. And for some reason, my body and all its functions came back to me, and I said, I know, I'm fine. I don't know how I knew, but I did. When I saw the doctor, she kept me overnight to keep watch of my vitals. My parents and Lance all stayed as long as they could. It's not every day someone gets struck by lightning, and I remember thinking what a statistical anomaly I was. But things only got stranger. That night, I was visited by a pale white figure. That old familiar warmth came with it, and it was telling me that I had been chosen. I started to freak out and thought I was having some sort of nightmare. And so I started calling out for help and saying, "Nightmare, nightmare," over and over until a nurse came. He asked me what my nightmare was about, and I told him I was still having it. But he couldn't see the figure and told me to relax. I tried to, and the figure got quiet, almost disappearing into the hospital walls. But when the nurse left, the figure spoke again. It told me again that I had been chosen to help others. And then it was gone. But it left with me that warm feeling like I felt at the watchtower. I tried to get on with things. Lance and I started spending more time together than my mother wanted. When I was home, I focused my mind back on the job hunt. But for the first time, I wasn't sure I wanted to move back. I didn't know if I was ready to say goodbye to Lance. But then one night, I fell asleep in the living room. Apparently, my mom was complaining about her arthritis. And I just sat up and said, "You should start using ginkgo and bromelain." And then, according to my mom, I just walked off to the bathroom. But see, I didn't remember really waking up or being conscious until I was staring at myself in the mirror. It was freaky for both me and my mom, and probably the first thing we actually agreed on. And when my mom tried the ginkgo and bromelain, she said it made a world of difference. Well, if you know anything about my mom, you know she's the biggest mouth in all of Little Elm, which is my hometown. Don't even look for it on a map because you won't find it. Anyways, by the next day, everybody was asking me to cure their ailments. I woke up and dang near half the town was in our living room. Mom was having her monthly tea club or something like that, but we all knew it was just a chance for those ladies to trade gossip. Mom's hairstylist, Georgia, was telling me that she's been getting warts. And Leslie Ann, who owned the strip mall, said her migraines were becoming worse and worse. I told them I didn't know a thing about it. But then, strangely enough, I did it again. That night, just as I was falling asleep, I remember having that strange warmth again. I didn't wake up until late the next day. And I found all these notes I had taken in my sleep about migraines and warts. I checked my search history, and I hadn't looked anything up. I gave the notes to my mom, and it wasn't much later that we heard back from Georgia and Leslie Ann. Both ladies had an improved recovery. And my mom started looking at me like I was some sort of soothsayer or witch or something. But it was Lance who told me that I was a miracle. He encouraged me to charge a small fee, and my little clinic was a hit. It was probably the easiest job I had. I had an initial consultation with the patient. I took a nap, and I woke up with notes. People from all over started coming to Little Elm, and I started doing pretty well for myself. I was surprised how touched I was to hear from my patients. Just them telling me that they were feeling better made me feel better about myself. But then I got a call from a big brokerage firm with a really great job offer. Before I moved back to Little Elm, I would have called the big city home. But now, home was Lance, and with my family and my patients. I didn't know what to do. But that night, as I was falling asleep, started to feel warm again. And the answer came to me. I guess it's true what they say. Home is where the heart is. I turned down the offer and got my own place in Little Elm not too far from the shop. There are little miracles in life if you're looking close. Sometimes things happen to us that change us. If you would have told me that I would have been living my best life back in my hometown, I would have called you crazy. But all's well that ends well. It's a quiet life now, but I've become accustomed to it. And I get to see Lance all the time, so I couldn't be happier. Have you ever changed your mind about something? Or your heart? Tell us about it in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more hidden wisdom stories. Remember, when you share our stories, you're sharing wisdom.